This is a Catholic Community Radio special report. Good morning, everyone. I'm Father Chris Decker from the Catholic Community Radio studios in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, going out live over the internet, over the radio waves, and into your car, your homes, for a very special day, a Gaudium Magnum, the most joyous news. The Diocese of Baton Rouge is proud to announce that Pope Francis has appointed Bishop Michael Duca, currently the Bishop of Shreveport, Louisiana, as the 6th Bishop of the Diocese of Baton Rouge. And we'll be going live to the press conference at the Catholic Life Center in Baton Rouge in just a moment. In fact, we're waiting on them to begin their coverage. But as we're anticipating that, we're also joined by Johnny Hebert with Catholic Community Radio.
Good morning, Father.
Good morning. And Stacy Galino with Catholic Radio. She's on Faith and Good Counsel. And you have many podcasting things. You're doing all sorts of stuff.
Lots of stuff going on in the Faith and Good Counsel world, but also on Wake Up
Absolutely.
as
You're
well.
Part of the Wake
and
crowd.
So thank you, Father Chris Decker and Johnny.
Absolutely.
Inviting me to be here.
It's good to be with you. Well, we thought that we would just kind of begin with what we know officially, and that is the press conference that was released or I should say the press statement that was released at 5 a.m. Our time, which is Roman noon. Traditionally at noon, Rome time, whenever new announcements are made, it happens on usually a Tuesday morning or a Tuesday afternoon, right at noon, as people are going for their afternoon espresso.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
And so there's a very real connection with that. And so the press release reads, the Vatican announced today that Pope Francis has appointed Bishop Michael Gerard Duca, currently Bishop of the Diocese of Shreveport, Louisiana, as the new Bishop of the Diocese of Baton Rouge. Bishop Duca succeeds Bishop Robert W. Munch, who is retiring. He has been the Bishop of Shreveport since May 19th. And what we're going to do is in just a moment, May 19th of 2008, and in just a moment, we're going to go to Catholic Life Television and their coverage, and we're just kind of monitoring that out of the corner of our eye. And of course, Bishop Duca is scheduled tentatively to be installed as the 6th Bishop of Baton Rouge on August 24th. This year at 2 p.m. at St. Joseph Cathedral. Interestingly enough, that is the feast of St. Bartholomew.
Isn't that something?
Mm-hmm. So it's really beautiful that Bishop Munch was installed on the feast of Saints Peter and Paul, as I recall. And so to kind of keep in that apostolic tradition to be installed.
It echoes the fact that the bishops are, in fact, the successors of the apostles themselves.
That's correct.
Wow, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And I think sometimes we need to remember those sorts of things, don't we? Is that there is an apostolic succession, there is a connection all the way back up to Peter himself, and what a beautiful thing that is. It looks as if we may be getting ready for some coverage. I know that the diocese Catholic Life Television is on top of everything, and we're just kind of taking a look to make sure that coverage is there. Whenever that pops up, we're going to bring it to you live on the air, on radio, and really wherever you're watching or listening. It's a really beautiful thing to be able to do this technologically speaking.
It truly
to be able
is.
To go.
Great gift.
Absolutely. And it looks as if their coverage is beginning. And so what we're going to do is take you live to Baton Rouge into the Catholic Life Center and the press conference for the Bishop-Designate Michael Duca. Here we go. Okay. It looks as if the audio feed has not been faded up from Catholic Life Television, and so presumably they are working on that. As soon as we have that audio, we'll certainly bring it to you.
Well, right now, Deacon Dan Bornay, who's the with respect to communications director,
that's correct, yes.
Just now at the podium, just kind of getting the whole flock ready for our new bishop.
That's
awesome.
Right. It's kind of the equivalent of warming up the crowd, you know, and making that first official statement.
I wonder if he's going to do it like he does, in the LSU games. It's just about a much bigger event.
And Bishop Munch is coming to the podium. We still don't have the audio for that. To the
but
best
it is
of my
good
knowledge.
to see Bishop Munch healthy. I mean,
Yes.
as you know, he was overcome by heat this Sunday, and had to be taken to the hospital, hydrated, but he's doing well.
Yes, and
It's
he
good to
looks
see him.
well.
He's smiling, and
That's right.
we're going to miss him.
And we can continue by reading Bishop Munch's statement in the press release. He says, with gratitude to God and to Pope Francis, and with open hearts and open arms, we welcome the appointment of Bishop Duca, current Bishop of Shreveport, to be the Bishop-elect of Baton Rouge. By nature, person, character, disposition, education, and experience, Bishop Duca is eminently qualified for this position as one who radiates the love and joy of Jesus Christ. He brings unique skills, training, and expertise in areas of theology, spirituality, canon law, psychology, seminary and vocations ministry, the commas continue, healthcare, ecumenism, and administration.
Wow.
We look forward to the celebration of his installation on Friday, August 24th, the feast of St. Bartholomew at 2 p.m. in the St. Joseph Cathedral in Baton Rouge. I extend my deepest congratulations to Bishop Duca and assure him of my personal support to him and to his anticipated ministry to the church in and of Baton Rouge. And then the bishop concludes with the book of Ecclesiastes. He says, there is an appointed time for every purpose under the heavens. 2 days ago at our cathedral, he said, I had the honor to celebrate a mass of thanksgiving to God and to the people who have been an essential part of 50 years as a priest. My 16 years of service as the 5th Bishop of Baton Rouge have been a profound honor and joy. I will forever hold the priests, deacons, vowed religious, seminarians, diocesan and parish administrators and staff, and dedicated lay faithful deep in heart and mind, in spirit, and in prayer. Bishop Munch always knows how to speak well of the ministry to which he's been a part. He's always been a very grateful shepherd.
It's like he's like the handing on of the baton. St. Paul says he's running the race. Of course, our Bishop Munch has many years of service ahead of him, but in this particular role, he's
That's right.
Yeah, more or less handing that on.
Absolutely, and that is kind of the mark of a good shepherd too, is to know when his time in the field is done. Right, he shepherded the sheep as best he could, and then to say, because we are a successor, I'm a successor of the apostles, and so is my successor, I'm able to hand the crozier on, and the continuity of the faith continues, and that's a very comforting thing.
Absolutely.
Well, I have to ask you, Father. I mean, as lay people, we're feeling certain things, but I'm just really curious. As a diocesan priest, you're formally, I guess, you're about to meet your new shepherd. What's
That's
going
right.
through your mind and heart?
Well, for me, I'm excited because anytime there is the possibility of new life, of new growth within the diocese. In fact, if you're watching the live coverage here, Bishop Munch and Bishop Duca have just embraced. And we still don't quite have the audio for you to the best of my knowledge. There's a little glitch going on with the coverage from Catholic television. But Bishop-Designate Michael Duca has ascended the podium. And as soon as we have some audio to bring you, we will certainly do so. Just a reminder that these things do happen whenever you're talking about live programming.
Right.
Sometimes the live bit is the devil in the detail, right?
Well,
For sure.
But one thing while we're waiting to come on, Father, is Bishop Munch was reading, and as we were kind of looking over Bishop Duca's biography, if you will, I was just taken by the breadth of his ministry, going from, I mean, he studied canon law in a very prestigious university in Rome. He's been a campus minister at SMU. He's got a degree in psychology.
That caught my attention.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
And in fact, our own Father Frank Bass, before he became a Catholic and a priest, he was the Anglican priest for the Episcopalian chapel at Southern Methodist University at the time that Bishop Duca was the campus minister, the chaplain at the Catholic chapel. And he said that he really was a good and just caring pastoral individual. And to be able to also have that background in psychology is really important, especially if you're going to work with young people, I would say.
I have a jump on you a little bit because I'm watching the Facebook feed here, and our new bishop may or may not be wiping his eyes right as we speak. You're about
That's
to
right.
see.
Yes. Yeah. If you're watching, he's
very overcome with emotion.
Yeah.
How beautiful.
His flock, Father, gosh, the diocese in Shreveport,
where he comes from,
is what they call Bible Belt country. There's not that many Catholics, 39,000, roughly 40,000 Catholics, and he's coming now to You go from North Louisiana to South Louisiana. It's a pretty big jump culture, but it's also a
That's
big
right.
jump in terms of number of Catholics. Gosh, Father,
That's true.
What's the jump there in terms of Catholics?
Well, I can tell you what Baton Rouge was in 2015. Of the total population of 992,000, 235,000 are Catholic. Almost 236,000.
Go from
Goodness.
39,000 to 2. Wow, that's for him.
That's a significant jump.
That is.
And of course, if you've ever been to Shreveport, you know that the Catholic churches there, the ones that are there that are large because people come from all over, to go to them, and the Catholic population isn't very big. But the beautiful thing about when you come from kind of a sparse Catholic population is those who are Catholic wish to be,
Yes.
many of whom have converted and that sort of thing. And so he's going to bring perhaps that particular gift to our diocese, if you will, an evangelical nature.
A deepening of the communion
Correct.
amongst us as well. You know what? I'm just I'm just sitting here. I'm just getting almost giddy. I'm just getting very, very excited because we've been praying all of this time in anticipation and hope and in this season of waiting, and now we know.
Right.
And my goodness, I was just so moved in reading the letter and just the gifts and the holiness that he will bring.
Mm-hmm.
As we say goodbye to our beloved Bishop Munch, we welcome this brand new bishop,
Absolutely.
Michael Duca.
And it's certainly worth saying that Bishop Munch is certainly very much alive and in good health.
Yes.
There was a little bit of a scare after his 50th anniversary celebration, but it was just dehydration,
Yes,
And
and it
I would
happens.
imagine if he knew, which he did, he had to have known what was coming up. There was probably a lot going on,
Certainly.
And so that's a very kind of a beautiful thing too, to see that he's willing to say, okay, I'm excited, and he was very
Yes.
excited, as we saw just a moment ago.
Father, and Stacy, I did find a Southeast Louisiana Cajun connection, sort of, kind of.
Did you now?
With our new Bishop Duca. His name actually comes from the Dauphin family, which is, of course, in France, southeast France. So welcome to Southeast French Louisiana.
That's
How
exactly
about
right. Yeah.
that?
Yeah, he's of course a native of Dallas.
Okay.
And so the beautiful thing about being so close to Texas is, especially in Shreveport, is that the cultures overlap a good little bit, And so he may have to learn if he doesn't like it already, he may have to learn a few different cuisines,
Oh, I'm sure he will. He may very well enjoy that, Father.
That's right. I have it on good authority that in Shreveport, he likes to eat with the Knights of Columbus councils, right? He likes to enjoy that level of fellowship. He himself is a fourth-degree member of the Knights
How
of Columbus,
about that?
according to the press release, and so we know how to cook very well down here, and so one of the best ways that we welcome anybody, especially a bishop,
You got to eat.
Exactly.
You got to eat.
That's right. and so he's continuing to speak, and as I say, we are aware that there is an audio issue on the stream that is coming from our media partner, Catholic Life Television, and they're working to get that sorted out. But we are going to go to Gabby in a little bit. Once Gabby Smith, I should say, is present at the press conference right now. One of our little microphones is on the podium, and so we'll be able to kind of get the Cliff's Notes version of what Bishop Duca said. And then, of course, as things come along, we'll be able to play that audio for you as well.
I believe our president, Dave Dawson's there as well.
That's right. David Dawson, who, of course, is the general manager and president of Catholic Community Radio, couldn't be contained. He was he was at the office this morning. He says, "Oh, should I go?" I said, "Well, absolutely, you should." I also have it on good authority as well that Bishop Duca loves Catholic media, right?
Great.
Especially
How
in a place like Shreveport, where it's very vast. He was working on some of the different initiatives in Catholic media.
Oh, wow.
And so there was at least the beginning of a Catholic radio initiative as well.
I do recall, do recall that.
That's right.
I think also, Father, you mentioned ecumenism and
Yes.
being in a Bible belt with not very many Catholics, even more so there than say here. It's not that you're forced to have ecumenism. It's just that
It's
your
a
culture
necessity.
and everything
Yeah.
is a necessity to get things done from a social justice standpoint and Catholic social teachings and other celebrations, things like that. So I know we're going to kind of talk a little bit more about this, but do you think that even though it's not very far away, that
Yeah.
change or that experience, that reality is going to have some effect here?
Well, it's very interesting. I would say that there's probably more in common with the Diocese of Shreveport, with our diocese and the Diocese of Shreveport, than there would be, say, in the Diocese of Lafayette or New Orleans.
How so?
Well, because Baton Rouge is itself, in a sense, was kind of Protestant before it was Catholic, right? They're from the British influence and that sort of thing. So perhaps culturally there are a lot of Catholic things that are there. But we know certainly that within Baton Rouge there has been a lot of folks who are not Catholic. There are a lot of families that are, but then there are many who are not. And so that evangelical ecumenistic nature will be very, very well served here to be able to reach out to those who perhaps have misconceptions about the faith or just simply want to know more. And a bishop who has some background in that can be very, very, very good. I mean, we think about Baton Rouge not only being the capital city, but also being kind of the place where Jimmy Swaggart, the great evangelical pastor, is. With a huge church there. There are a number of large mega churches in Baton Rouge. And to simply be a good Catholic witness, a witness as a disciple of Jesus Christ, is very, very important. And somebody who has a background in ecumenism has the ability to speak to some of those things. In fact, we were talking about that on Wake Up this morning, the notion of showing just maybe a few of the pearls of our treasure, and then opening up the entire treasure box as people become more kind of willing to see how beautiful the little pearl is, and then to see the entire treasure, the fullness of truth.
I'm curious, too, having been at Southern Methodist University, a large Protestant college. I guess it might even be bigger than LSU in terms of student population. It's huge. But as would be the case with any college campus, you're going to have friction up against non-believers, but then also obviously other faiths, and here he comes to an area where there's a large university and a very active Catholic ministry. Thank you, Father Andrew Merrick and others. So that brings an element of experience here as well, but slightly different.
Absolutely. And I think that whenever I've been to Southern Methodist, and a couple of friends of mine were students there while Bishop Duca was the chaplain. And that was exactly their experience, that he was able to speak well to the Methodist tradition, but also to be able to say, but this is where it kind of empties into or becomes a part of our shared Catholic tradition. And that's a very beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a great gift to our Diocese of Baton Rouge. I'm just enjoying learning more about him from the both of you, who seem to know more than I do. This morning I
that's
woke
okay.
up with
5 a.m. is early.
Yeah.
You know what I found? Another thing I found interesting, guys, was his middle name.
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, both names, Michael Gerard. Now, we know St. Michael, defender of faith, but look at St. Gerard as the patron saint of children, unborn children, mothers and expectant mothers, those that are falsely accused. And so you put those two things together.
That's pretty
he might
powerful
he's
stuff
a nice
there.
guy. He might be a gentle warrior.
A gentle warrior. I was just thinking, kind of going in that direction, Johnny. I'm so glad you said that and kind of clarified that for me. That's where my heart was speaking. That's so beautiful. And I'm wondering, I know you mentioned in the information you had the connection with Dauphine.
Yeah.
Dauphine.
Yes.
But I'm looking at Duca.
Comma to the top.
I have to kind of wonder. At least Duca. I mean, that sounds like he might like some red gravy.
Yeah, you never know.
I don't know. I don't know if it's Sicilian or Italian, or I don't know. Maybe someone else does. But
now, Stacy,
yes.
You haven't seen this before, so I'm going to get your reaction to Bishop Duca's coat of arms. What do you notice? We're both looking at the coat of arms here.
Okay.
You go online and get your reaction to this, of both the banner and then the rest of it.
I see a lot of beautiful Catholic symbology. First of all, the crucifix, but the Sacred Heart of Jesus Christ.
Yes, I saw that too. On fire, yeah.
On fire. And I find very interesting the Trinity in Celtic form mounted upon a cross.
Yeah.
that makes me wonder. I'm curious about that.
I want to ask you.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then we have, was this the lily?
The lily. Oh, that's
great symbol.
beautiful. And hope in the Lord.
Hope in the Lord.
Hope.
That is his banner.
Oh,
right?
that's
Hope
so
in the Lord.
stunning.
Now, he may not be aware of this, but I see he's got a Lone Star up in the upper right-hand corner. Now, I don't know why he chose the Lone Star, but that's the state of Texas,
He
obviously.
is from Texas.
But then the Lone Star is the history of
I'm just going to break in here.
Okay.
We're going to go now live to Baton Rouge, to the Capital Life Center.
The separated we are, the less unity we'll have. You know this. The minute you meet someone, even if you had nothing good to say about them, once you learn a little bit about their life and a little bit about their struggle, your heart just opens up immediately. And so we need proximity. That was the word he used, proximity. We need to kind of break down bridges and build proximity so that we are talking to one another. With the poor, that we're actually touching the poor, hearing their story. With people of different cultures and different ideas, we need to get close to them to understand their lives. Because in the end, we all want the same thing. So for our brothers and sisters that don't speak English, I want them to know that they are a part of our family. If I could say this in Vietnamese, I would, but that's way beyond me. And I'm not going to try to say it in South Louisiana, because I know that I would mess that up too. So it's my hope that we'll continue to build. And I have the great opportunity and great gift to build on the legacy of Bishop Munch. When I got to Shreveport, some of the bishops, when they become bishops, they said, I hit the ground running. There was so much to do. And I said, when I got to Shreveport, I hit the ground walking. Everything was kind of in place. And I kind of feel like that here, that there's a good organization, a good structure, a good spirit in the church. I have a priest, a man lives in Shreveport, whose brother is a priest here, and he said, you got the best group of priests in Louisiana. I said, well, besides Shreveport, yes, we got the best. Now I say yes, now they are the best, now because they're my priests. And that was very encouraging, and Bishop Munch has given me the same kind of encouragement. And so I come with a great enthusiasm and excitement, and I hope to hit the ground walking, but a good pace, a good fast pace, and anxious to meet all of you over the next years of my life as a bishop of the Diocese of Baton Rouge. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop Munch. And a couple of very quick points. Thanks to the media for coming out on such short notice. We had short notice, so you had short notice. Secondly, thanks to the East Baton Rouge Parish, the police department here in Baton Rouge for providing security this morning. A couple of quick notes. On the selection of a bishop, there's an excellent discussion of that on the USCCB website. It gives every step in the event that you want to follow up with what's going to happen in Shreveport. And secondly, we will be updating the information about the installation of the new bishop on a regular basis. And I will give you a couple of websites. They're in the packet for the media, but for those of you who would like to take these down and those of you watching, one is the shepherd.diobr.org website, https shepherd, small letters, .diobr.org. That will be updated regularly as we plan the installation. And on Facebook, it's facebook.com/small-a, big N, E-W, big S, H-E-P-H-E-R-D. Just the N and the S are capitalized. That's on Facebook. Thank you again, and we will be working with you in the course of the installation. Thank you.
Can we get a statement from the bishop on how he feels today?
Sure.
And we're back. We're returning to here to the studios at Catholic Community Radio. We were able to finally bring you the tail end of the press conference with Bishop-Designate Duca, and we can verify that it was a little audio hiccup, but we switched over to handy-dandy Facebook, which seems to be where everybody gets news these days.
Yes.
And it just so happens that we were able to report real news on Facebook, which is good.
I caught the first word I heard, Father, was proximity.
Yes.
Tell me about what you heard.
Absolutely. I heard that too. And as we were talking about ecumenism right before we took the feed, I think that is very much to be ecumenical with anyone, whether they are Catholic, fallen away Catholic, non-Catholic, is to be proximate to them. And that dovetails perfectly with what Pope Francis speaks of when he talks about journeying with, accompanying people.
And and in that he also extended that to various ethnic communities.
That's right.
He
That's
mentioned
right.
Yeah.
Hispanic communities, and
And
do we have more?
we have something from Bishop Munch over here. Do we want to go back to that? Can we go back to that?
I'm going to be lonely. And no one will be pulling harder for Bishop Duca than Bishop Munch.
That's right.
I will tell you this story when, and I've told this to the bishop. When I became the Bishop of Covington, Kentucky, there was another Bishop Hughes, Bishop William Hughes, who had retired. And I used to approach him as my advisor, and I used to say to him that you have sat in the chair, the cathedra. That's why we use the word cathedral, but not just sitting in the cathedral, but the office of being the bishop of a diocese. And so you have better experience and advice to give me. And he used to have, he's gone to the Lord, but he had this very deep voice. And I'll never forget him telling me, like when I would go with a difficult problem, he'd say, "Well, Bob, that's a very difficult problem. I understand why you find it difficult." And then he would give me the best of advice. And I told him one time, his first name was Bill. We called each other by our first names. I said, "Well, Bill, I hope one day I'll be able to say to somebody, 'Bishop, I understand. That's a very tough problem.'" And that wish has been fulfilled. You see, priesthood, as I said in the homily Sunday, is relational. It's interpersonal. It's not just about making executive decisions. It's not just about organizing and planning and trying to bring together. Priesthood is a spiritual privilege. And I was telling someone the other day, I had a regular visit with one of my doctors, and as I was leaving the office, there was a lady with a child who got on the elevator, and she looked at me and she said, "This is the first time I've ever met a priest in person." And she was so respectful. And she says, "I've only seen priests on TV." And I felt like saying, "Well, I play a priest on TV." I didn't. But she was so respectful. People are good. We're all made of the same clay. And we all have to try the best that we can. But when you come to a point, the appointed time, it's time now to move to the next stage, the next step. But I do so filled with the joy of the love of the priesthood. And so I will be able to continue as needed the ministry that, and the bishop and I were talking about this, of diaconate, of priesthood, and episcopacy if necessary. But I serve at the pleasure of how Bishop Duca would need me or wish me to help. But I am now in the background. And for the next 2 months in this transition period, we'll be, working out all of that. So therefore, I want everyone to know there is only one diocesan bishop at a time. And that bishop is Bishop Duca. And I, again, will support him and affirm him and assist him in any which way I can. But I've had 16 years here. I've had 28 years being a bishop, along with the 22 years prior to that being a priest. And frankly, being a deacon priest is one of the greatest privileges any of us can have. And with the challenges of being a bishop, there also come, as Bishop Duca mentioned, great joys, closeness to people. And Sunday at that Mass, as I was looking at the congregation and the people in the sanctuary, it just put inside of me intangible as well as tangible memories of the joy of priesthood. And if I can make a commercial, it will be this. For any potential candidates for the Catholic priesthood, think about it, pray about it, consult about it. But I also said on Sunday that from the first day I walked into the seminary at age 13 in 1956, the high school seminary at St. Benedict, now it's college. Through the 12 years of studying to be a priest, and through the 50 years of being a priest, the last 28 as either auxiliary or diocesan bishop, by the grace of God, and it is the grace of God. I've had long days, I've had hard days, I've had difficult days, but there was never an instant in which I wanted to be anything other than a priest. Being a Catholic priest means you give up your own personal family, although obviously you maintain your family of origin. And I've been so lucky, not only with my 3 sisters, brother-in-laws, and nieces and nephews, great nieces and great nephews, who are just so delightful. And Uncle Bob can be the nice person and doesn't have to tell them time to go to bed, time to brush your teeth, time to do your homework, get off that phone and all that. Unless they do something that could hurt them or someone else, they can get away with anything else. And that's been a great joy. But not just that family. The family of the church and the community. How people are so good to us and what it means. One-on-one, one in small groups, one in large groups. To pray with people, privately or publicly. To be a member of their family by extension. This will not cease. It will be in a new situation. And I welcome this time. I have served my time. It is time for someone younger, with more energy, and to take the baton, the red baton, baton rouge, and to take it down the road. Thank you.
Bishop, can we ask both of you to stand behind the podium? We're going to ask both bishops to stand behind the podium together in the event you want a photo op of some kind. Thank you very much, and then we'll be dismissed.
All righty, and as they do indeed take the podium together, it looks very official, don't you think,
Yes.
Bishop Duca and now Bishop Emeritus Robert W. Munch of the Diocese of Baton Rouge.
You know, something that Bishop Munch said
Yeah.
with regard to priesthood, Father, I'd love your commentary on this, being relational and interpersonal and a spiritual privilege. And really, earlier, Johnny and I were speaking about Bishop Duca's coat of arms.
Yes.
And there's a representation of our relational, interpersonal humanness. Could you talk about that, please?
Absolutely. Yeah. First of all, with the coat of arms, the coat of arms is afforded to every member of the episcopacy. It kind of identifies them in point of fact. And usually there are things that are either familial, right, that are part of your family that make it onto your coat of arms, or things that are close to you. And of course, we can only speculate as to what this symbol may mean in its entirety. But there is that traditional symbol of the Trinity,
Yes.
right in the smack dab in the center of his coat of arms. And the representation of the Trinity is the triangular one that has all of the lines kind of interspersed and perfectly connected together. And as a person in the psychological field would know, right, there is no better representation of perfect communication, perfect accompaniment than the Holy Trinity.
Amen.
And for that to be in the center of a coat of arms, I think that's a beautiful sign.
It really draws to my heart and speaks to my heart. I can't wait to just to get to know him more and to let that have some flesh on it as he begins to shepherd our diocese as of today, as of 5 a.m. today.
That's right, and certainly as we know, as more things become available, we'll hopefully be able to bring you a significant portion of Bishop Duca's press conference itself, his first few words to us in the Diocese of Baton Rouge, and we are hopefully going to perhaps visit with some of our other Catholic Radio folks that are down there at the diocese. And I'm told now that we have Gabby Smith, who is our Director of News and Social Media, who's present there at the Catholic Life Center. Gabby, can you give us a sense of the room there in the Westerfield Conference Center?
Hey, Father Chris. Well, everyone is really, really excited. The mood was just energetic, smiles, all smiles, just happy. Both bishops cracking jokes, Deacon Dan Bournet cracking jokes. The first thing that Deacon Dan Bournet with the Diocese of Baton Rouge asked was, Bishop Munch, did you hydrate today? So it was
yeah, and that's typically our diocese, right? We have a lot of room for good humor, and that's and Bishop Munch, that's a great gift that he has too.
Yes, and Bishop-elect Michael Duca will be permanently the bishop of the Diocese of Baton Rouge on Friday, August 24th at 2 p.m., which is the Feast of St. Bartholomew. He'll be the 6th bishop of the Diocese of Baton Rouge. And the one thing that he said that really was so profound, he says, quote, I see the goodness of the people of God, and he stopped and teared up in front of everyone, which is so profound. And he was talking about bringing the community together, bringing the culture together, which we know when we look at the secular news today and the world around us can be a challenge with things being so divided. But he really talked about the importance of bringing the Hispanic community together,
yes.
Especially during these times. And he made a comment in Spanish about to the Spanish community that, we're not forgetting about the Spanish community, and it's important to be close to one another, he says. He says we need to break down bridges and talk to one another. Excuse me. He says bringing people of different cultures together is so important, especially for the Hispanic community. And he also talked about the Vietnamese community, how we shouldn't forget those around us as well. So also about the importance of someone from the Advocate asked about the clergy scandals happening in the Archdiocese of New Orleans and what would happen. This is way back in the 80s, and what would happen if that happened in Baton Rouge again. And he talked about the importance of taking things very seriously when it comes to that and informing the community, just because all this stuff is arising in the media once again of the past.
Yeah.
So he talked about the importance of that as well. But he's very excited. Bishop Munch is breathing a sigh of relief. I felt like he just unpacked a giant backpack and set it down, and he's walking away from it.
That's right, but not too far, because as Bishop Munch himself indicated, he'd be ready for diaconal ministry. As you remember, of course, from your catechism, he is ordained bishop, priest, and deacon as well. And so it's nice to see that he won't be too far away to be able to support Bishop Duca. And I know, Gabby, as you say, he spoke to the Spanish community, the Spanish-speaking community. He spoke to the Vietnamese community, although in English. He said that if he could have spoken in Vietnamese, he would have. Probably a good thing to not try, right? If he can't. But the notion of having every voice heard, that really is what family life is like, and I think that's one of the things that I took away from this, is that he really does see the diocese as a family, which is, of course, what caused him to tear up, essentially, right? Is seeing the goodness of the people of God.
correct. And Bishop Munch, the final statement that he made was actually pretty humorous. He says, "It is time for someone younger and with more energy to take the red baton, the baton of Baton Rouge," and
yes.
everyone clapped. So that was a pretty good statement to end things on. So, we're really excited, and he's very much looking forward to being here. So he says he has a lot of great things planned. So we're definitely going to keep him in our prayers.
That's wonderful, and I know that that speaking not only as a priest of the diocese, but also as a member, right? I'm a parishioner of my own parishes, right? I'm very excited for that as well, and I know Johnny and Stacy. I can read in your smiles that you're excited too.
Oh, very much so. It's just delightful to see the fruits of your prayers, the
Yes.
person for whom you've been praying all this time.
That's right.
Yeah, what just hit me today, and listening to both bishops, and is this theme of joy. We were talking about Bishop Duca with ecumenism and all his wide experience and working with students. But Father and Stacy, Jeff, what attracts people to the truths of the Catholic faith is that radiant joy that comes from not owning the truth, but being blessed to have it revealed to us in its completeness, and
to be a servant
when
of
people
it.
are joyful, Sister Tracy Duca, you think of so many people that attract people to the faith. It's out of that pure joy, and people say, where does that come from?
Right.
And with all the divisiveness, Gabby, you were talking about this is the medicine that leads us to the medicine of immortality, the Eucharist.
Right.
But Father, joy, what
That's
the
right.
power
Well, and
that
I
is.
think we saw that too. Wouldn't you agree, Gabby, that those were tears of joy, not just being overcome by emotion, but joy that the Lord is working.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we could all tell. There were some, if you want to put in a millennial young person's perspective, there were totally good vibes happening in that room. I felt it. David Dawson
That's a
felt
70s.
Yeah,
right, it's back
60s
again.
and 70s. That's right. It's
right.
back with the yeah. I especially love that the tears came, Gabby, when he was speaking about the goodness of people. That really that plucked the harpstrings in my heart. I thought, wow, this is very, very, very beautiful, and very gives us a window into maybe his heart as well. And also, as we've been speaking about, communion and bringing one another together, this idea of interpersonal and relational and our differences, originally that's what united us. And so I can see him, bringing us back to the beginning and to bring all of us together, whatever the differences may be.
Absolutely, and that is certainly a great hope. In fact, his Episcopal motto, which is something that a bishop chooses the moment that he is named a bishop, is hope in the Lord.
Oh, amen.
And when you join the theological virtue of hope to the fruit of the Spirit, which is joy, you get something that is vibrant, something that can be grown.
Amen.
And that's beautiful. Well, we certainly want to thank Gabby. Thank you for joining us there on the ground at the Catholic Life Center, the Chancery Building there in Baton Rouge. And we know that you'll be probably preparing even more for Wake Up tomorrow. Isn't that right?
Yeah, so we're excited. I have on my paperwork with all the statistics, and then we'll keep you up to date with what's happening in Shreveport in case anyone is interested in the process of everything. So we'll definitely be keeping everyone up to date. So yeah, catch up updates on today. You can catch it tomorrow on Wake Up at 7 a.m.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gabby and David Dawson there at the Catholic Diocese of Baton Rouge. We also want to thank our in-studio guests, Stacy Galino and Johnny Hebert, also on the Wake Up Show and other beautiful outlets of Catholic media. Thank you both for being here today.
My pleasure.
Good.
And then, of course, we thank Jeff Blackwell, and we thank Parker behind the video. I'm Father Chris Decker. Stay tuned to Catholic Radio. We'll join programming already in progress, and have a wonderful afternoon.
WQNO 690 AM New Orleans, WPYR 1380 AM Baton Rouge. Catholic Community Radio now joins programming already in progress.
And we find you a place to live in an assisted living facility